Welcome to my presentation on the separation of code and state part 2 for M2. As you can see on your lanyards it says the sequel, but this is part 2, obviously for Magenta 2. So a bit about me. I am a lead developer at CTI Digital and I've been working with Magenta since 2013. In my spare time I like to play the tabla, which is the Indian drums. As you can see there's a picture of me right there. I mentioned this because I've actually never taken to a stage to do a technical presentation like this, so this is my first time. However, I have performed at the Royal Albert Hall in London. My teacher, though, gave me one piece of weird advice, and in order to control my nerves when getting on stage. I'll let you be the judge of how good this advice is, but I knew I had heard it from somewhere. Yeah, from The Simpsons, just picture them in the other end. But don't worry, I'm not picturing you guys like that, so that's fine. Anyway, a show of hands, who came to the very first Mage Titans? About 25% of people? Oh, that's good. So, if you might remember this is obviously part 1. So, well, it was not part 1 at the time, it was just the actual presentation. This is where our technical director had spoke about separation of code and state, where we at CTI had developed a solution for managing configuration through our version control system. But why? So back in the day, during a build, each developer would be working on a project and had to connect to the same database server using a local XML file. Obviously, this would cause another developer to run your own configuration if multiple developers are working on the same database. However, most of the time we would import the staging database into our local XML and run a few Mage run commands just to get up and running. The trouble with that is we would have to manage the configuration both on stage and locally, so we're doubling up on the work as we do this. And if you worked with images before, you can see that if when you're bringing down the project and you'll have no images, so you'll have to bring down the images as well, and that's a bit of a pain, so you'll have placeholder images, missing images, and it doesn't look right when you're developing. And obviously, if you're during the build, if you want to put any other data in, you have to create data scripts as well, and this could get quite messy and it's quite tedious to do. Back in the day also, we never used to have QA or even do TDD, as things are quite a mess and inconsistent. So what happens when you're hit with a project which requires a lot of data input? Well, check this out, we had to create a Magenta install with 180 websites, so it's quite a lot. Out of that, 200 storefronts, and from time to time the client will ask, oh, we want to add 5 websites today, or we want to take away a few websites, so it's really, they're changing goalposts all the time, so we need to be quite dynamic. And we have 4 to 5 developers working on the same time on this single project. And as with every other project that you worked on, short deadlines. So you can imagine, working in the same way we have been working on, this would be an absolute nightmare. I think this is making a bit of a theme inside all our presentations. So what does this mean? So naturally, we have to rethink the process. And in the previous talk, Rick had spoke about this trash and rebuild process where we would drop the Magenta database and install Magenta. And on top of this process, we have a script that would fill in the data so you could get started up quickly. And from there came the birth of the Magenta configurator for Magenta 1. That's the GitHub URL. If anyone's still interested in the Magenta 1 configurator, by all means, go and check it out. So, but what is it though? So, firstly, as part of the trash and rebuild process, we have to drop the database, install the database from scratch, and with a bit of help from the Mage run, we would start things up, install Magenta. What Configurator would do is fill up the database with the relevant data that you need. As you develop with the project, each developer would add their own configuration into the database via Configurator, and this will be shared across the code as part of your version control system. It would also allow environment-specific configuration data and data such as connection to third-party services like PayPal and your ERPs. So I'll quickly go over the process briefly. So we have, for example, 3 developers here. Developer 1 would pull in the changes, they would drop the database on the local environment, and they would install it using Mage run. I think today you can just use the bin Magento setup Magento, and then you run Configurator, which will then fill in the data. You make your changes to the database and your code at the same time, and you commit the changes. The next developer would do the exact same thing, pull the changes, drop and install the Magento, run Configurator, make their changes, commit the changes, and so on and so forth. Every developer working on the project would do the same thing. So they're not going to be stepping on each other's toes when doing this using Configurator. So naturally, now that we're starting all our new builds in Magenta 2, we have had to develop a Magenta 2 version of Magenta Configurator. We called it Magenta 2 Configurator. So the Magenta Configurator is split into components, where each component has been created to address more or less each model of Magento. This will populate the table of the Magenta database as part of the trash and rebuild process, and this will help pave the way to a close to perfect go-live environment. Once the module has been included in the project, so you could do it by Composer, you'll get these commands as part of your setup. So we have the bin Magenta Configurator run, and you can see underneath that we're specifying the production environment. So what this will do is run Configurator as you would run it on the production environment, and just fill in the production environment specific details. And underneath that, you can see we have another command here, which is for our local environment. This is where, if you're developing a certain part of your Magento install, you would, like, for example, your store configuration, if you wanted to just update store configuration, you just run this command and it will all just update for you. So, as mentioned previously, there are many components that are supported as part of Magenta 2 Configurator, and there's a command there to see what's supported at the time if you bring down the project, and you can do everything from setting system configuration to creating widgets to adding products and API integrations and much, much more. So that's a big list there, and that's just going to keep on growing. So, how do you get set up? Firstly, we have to set up the master YAML file. So this is just a section of it. So this is the backbone of Configurator. It tells Configurator what it needs to do, where it needs to get the data, and where it needs to put it. It references the data files relative to the Magenta root directory. So we've decided to take all our Configurator files outside of the root directory by using the // notation. And also, you can specify what files, data files you want to run depending on the environment you're on. So you've got your local environment, stage environment, production environment, and as you saw on the slide previously, you could choose which environment you want to run it on. So let's delve into the website component. So this is essentially how the website YAML would look like. So we're creating new websites within Magento, and we have the base website and we have the US website. Within the US, we've got the name of the website as well. So within the website, we've got the store groups. As you know, that references the group category, and underneath the store groups, we have the store views, which obviously creates the store views. So when we run Configurator and look into Magento, this is how it looks in Magento. So you can see it's pretty much a copy of what my configuration was previously, from there to there. And what the advantage is you don't have to go into press that button, click create website, and then type in the detail, click create a store, and so on and so forth. It's quite tedious to do that from time to time, especially if you're doing 480 websites. So the store configuration is another one I'm going to talk about as well. So this is just, again, a small section of it. This will be quite long in practice. On a global scope, we decided to go for the US country as the default country, but on the base website, we're specifying that the UK is the base country, and the store view, where this specifying that the locale is a British locale. So this is what it looks like when you run Configurator on the command line. And this is just an animated GIF, and it just shows how quick it is. I wouldn't do a live demonstration of this because I'm not as good as Binai. So to help us develop this module along the way, we could not have done it without some of the free tools. Mage Run I've already spoken about, fantastic tool. If you don't use it, I don't know what you're doing. It's the Swiss Army knife of Magento. Xdebug, again, without Xdebug, I don't think I would have been able to start this project off. It's very handy. If you're still doing var dumps everywhere, use this, please. And RoboLI, this is a task runner written in PHP, which if you're anything like me and you're writing shell scripts and you're going to make mistakes everywhere, don't bother. Start using Robo, it'll help you. It's all written in PHP, it's much easier to use. It'll just run, when you saw the process from before, it'll do everything in one go, depending how you write it. And Travis CI, so obviously this is a GitHub module. Any pull requests that come through or anything that's pushed onto the branches, they'll all go through these tests, and they'll just make sure that the code is of a certain standard, of good standard. We've also got the actual configurator running as one of the tests as well on different versions of Magento, so we could do that as part of that. I'd like to say big thanks to the community. As you can see here, we've got a lot of local names over here, household names. So we've got CTI and VKMH Limited. We have Ampersand, and there's many more on GitHub. If you go and check it out, there's plenty of contributors, and it's very I felt very heartfelt by the people that have helped out on here. Again, without Mage Titans, this module would not have been created. It was through the demand of the Mage Titans community in 2014 to bring this module to community, and it is a Mage Titans community that have helped bring this module to life. So without events like this would not have happened. A truly community module. So for that reason, I'd like to take this opportunity to announce version 1 of Magento 2 Configurator. So thank you very much for that. So what's next, and where can you give us a hand? We have a few more components still to be developed for Magento Open Source Edition to help try and address more or less every model in Magento. This will include better support for Magento 2.2 in the form of version 2 of Magento Configurator. We'll also be developing a new module to extend the existing configurator that will include all the Magento Commerce specific models, so your Enterprise Edition version. And we'll also, with the newly announced business-to-business offering by Magento, we're replacing B2B specific models onto the roadmap. With Bluefoot also making an introduction to the Magento scene, we'll also want to develop components to populate the Bluefoot-based CMS data. And if you're an extension developer out there, and your module has models that can benefit developers with the use of Configurator, including your own component for Magento should be very easy, and it'll help us out a lot. Thank you for listening. If we have time for questions, I can take questions. Nope, that's fine. You can. That's the link to the configurator, and that's my Twitter handle if you want to ask me any questions now or afterwards. Thank you very much.